Hello, I'm Sharon.
And I'm Wendy.
Welcome
Welcome
to
to
Brown
Brown Space.
Space. This is a safe space where we talk about the hard topic of racism.
And build empathy through the healing power of conversation.
Thank you for joining us. So there's a lot to be said about really, reaching across the aisle and crossing that divide and building those really valuable relationships because times like that, it does come in handy. I mean, that wasn't my reason for building the relationship, but, it just speaks volumes about the importance of, just getting to know people, appreciating people, period, regardless of,
Yeah.
and as a Black female that have heard so many stories like yours, Christopher, and have family members that have gone through it, sometimes it breaks my heart. And I think that's why we're doing Brown Space, a big part of it.
Yeah, definitely. Because my experiences in being pulled over, like, I know I broke the law. Or, most of the time, if I truly broke the law, then, well, because I did, I will get a ticket. And a few times, however, I have been given warnings instead, but always been treated very politely. Um, Edgar, have you had strange experiences?
Not with not personally. The strangest thing I did have was with a friend of mine when we got pulled over, but he's black and he's 6'4". And I remember this is the first time and only time I experienced where and it dawned on me after, because I didn't think about it in the moment. It was when my friend said, "Did you really hear what the police said?" Because I remember the police saying, "Hey, you're a big guy. Don't move too quickly. I'm gonna have to use my gun." But he said it jokingly, but I didn't realize at that moment. This was a long time ago. The jest was not. It was not jest. But again, that wasn't towards me. But in a driving circumstance, that's the only time when it was directed to a friend of mine who is, built like a football player, but is like a literally like a teddy bear. Like would have never. That's not the person. His actions are always words first. But he was being judged just because he's a tall, statuesque, rather stoic black man, and I'm like, yeah.
Not
So not me personally, no. I only speak this way, not to I've had to hide in different ways, but this is not how and this I guess that's why I'm so eager for people to have confidence, so we can waste time hiding. Because I spent a long time hiding in high school, um, since I was 6. Since I heard the first time I heard the word gay, I remember that was like the scariest thing ever, and I didn't even know what it meant. So I hid for a long time, but not this way. I'm pretty articulate. I'm quick at the mouth. I'm quick at the brain. So I've been pretty good in that case, and I think that has helped me. I'm also a light skinned Latino, and I have an accent, but it's not like my parents. My parents have thick accents. My father, when he gets stressed, his tongue becomes like a knot. When I get stressed, my tongue just becomes like a sharp, articulator.
I have a question that either one of you can answer this about the statement, I don't see color, or that's really the best way to be is just let's not treat people based on their color, skin
fun.
color. What do you think?
For me, if I speak for myself, and Christopher, you can jump in whenever you want. My parents in my household never spoke about anyone. So in my house, there was never race talk. There was never anything. So I did not. I learned that in the streets, that talk. So your parents are like, I've met family members who would literally say, I've seen them say this to my cousins. You only date a white girl to learn how to do things, but you marry your Latina girl. And we don't date black people. And I'm like, what are I learned that outside of my household. So I do not see color. I learned color from other people, And I choose every day not to let that make me, because of all my outside things, to make me get nervous. I just try to be, I'm going to be who I am, where I am, and I'm walking through, and I'm not going to cross the street just because there's black people. I'm not going to cross the street because there's like some Mexican thug looking people. I'm going to use the street, I'm going to use the street, and I'm going to walk with my confidence. But to say I do not see color, I do see color, I do not act on it. That's the difference. Because I grew up when my parents taught me not to see. They never spoke about anybody. That's, do you understand? Like I had to go out and be older and be like, oh, there are these things out there. Not that they sheltered me, they just don't talk about people as race or things like that. But I see color because I've learned it. I don't let that intimidate me because I have friends from literally every skin tone, every socioeconomic background, every type of education or not education. And I've learned from every single body. That's my experience. I see color, I do not act on it.
For me, the statement itself lacks clarity. There is color, and then there is people's lives, their culture, their experiences inside being perhaps the color that they are. So I don't necessarily mind people not seeing color because I don't think color is the issue. I do think we need to be seeing people's stories and understanding their cultural contexts so that we're not stepping on toes and that we're growing to understand how people's dinner tables work. But in order to do that, I don't think it is necessary to fixate on color. So the statement itself is kind of like lazy and almost like doesn't even make any sense. But yeah, that's how I feel about that particular statement. Yeah.
The reason I ask that question is because I think that it's become like the label or the wash, the whitewash,
Yeah, like
for a lot of what it is that we really need to
work on,
pay attention to, and work on, and delve in, and be uncomfortable, be in the uncomfortable spaces and places and conversations like these. We have to look at the fact that, hey, I'm like the darkest one here on the screen right now.
In all your glory.
100%. No one's denying that, by the way.
And not let what it is that we think that we, might have our preconceived notions about what the darkest person in the room should be like, as Christopher said. What are my experiences? What is my heart towards people? What is it that I've done to make sure that, hey, every student in the room is going to be passionate about a particular subject or topic or dance style or musical note or whatever it is that we're teaching.
Yeah, I agree with you and what Christopher was saying about learning about people, like actually knowing the stories. I think that's great. Like that's how we, we got to get out of our own way, out of our own ego. We do have to be uncomfortable. It's also the only time we grow. We don't grow in comfort.
And that's why I am very blessed by my career path. I so enjoy dance because there is dissonance in learning a new task. I get to lead that dissonance. And then there is opportunity for me as an educator to constantly ambassadors cultural humility and bring in context and history of my people and lament that with my own story and my history so that y'all have something to chew on when you leave. And all of that kind of creates a nice bed for some of the more difficult things that may arise in conversation or sometimes in the privacy of your own heart when you're learning something about a new culture. Sometimes the dissonance that comes from that is somehow softened by the blow of having to learn the dance. And there becomes this nice thing that's happening, this growth on many levels. So I love dance for that. It is disarming in a big way, and I can disarm crowds of people at one time and quite literally wield my culture like,
Yeah.
for an hour and leave everybody like, that's basically what I do every day, for like a few hours. And I go home and garden, and eat some food.
That's so beautifully put, though. That's so beautifully expressed that way. Because in my world, I don't always bring my culture to it. I teach a lot of Western music, and I teach musical theater, which is so, an American, it's like, it's not still, yeah, luckily for what I'm enjoying most about musical theater, more than I've ever even thought I would, even though I already loved it, was that they are storytellers. So at the end of the day, in spite of what's been written, they are trying to really delve into understand whatever character they're doing. And I just think it's fascinating that we get to be these characters, me as a performer, but also see my students do that. So what you're doing within the realm and scope of what they're working on, I guide them. And I don't do as much Latin music as I would love to. But in my culture, it's a lot of merengue and bachata. And that's not what I want to do. That's not what moves me. But it's just cool that you can use your passion of your culture and like literally transport and turn around these people within that moment.
Absolutely.
And then go home and be like, I think I saw a weed.
Yeah. Right. No, honestly, because like I'll give you a nuance, a very specific thing. I tend to ask you were looking at a class of 40 in context, Boca Raton, largely Jewish community, wealthy folks.
Yes.
And they're taking with me once or twice a week at a country club. It's quite a setting. And I come in just like this. And I will ask them every week, like clockwork, can anyone tell me what rhythm this is? And when they first meet me, they are actually a little bit annoyed by it with that first clasp. They don't like to be questioned. Why is it that I'm being held? Why do I have to answer you? You're my instructor. What are you, my what? And then by the third class and the fifth class and the 10th class, as I keep asking, at some point, I make the connection for them and let them know, hey, y'all, turn down the music. And I'll say, this is the 5th time y'all have been to my dinner table and you still don't know what I cooked for dinner. I said, when's the last time you went to your friend's house and they made something to eat? You didn't thank them for making it and you didn't ask what it was or where it came from. Now I have I have doctors and teachers and other professors, all kind of stuff. Who knows what they thought about me up until that moment. In this moment, what we have to do is show some respect to the culture that you've decided you want to participate in. Not only today, but you participate in it every week. Mind you, it brings you joy, it brings you exercise, all these wonderful things. But you're not doing enough to honor it. Not enough for me. And when we're all in here, we have to honor my culture because that's what we're participating in. So the next time I ask you, next week, when I ask you what rhythm this is, Miss Wendy, you're going to say, and she'll be like, merengue, or whatever it is. And then the next week, and then eventually a year later, they can speak any Latin rhythm comes on.
Appreciation.
They can do the emotions, all of that. And that aversion that they had to understanding it in the beginning, at least in front of me, is not there anymore. And I do appreciate that shift, and that we can do that together.
Gosh, you're going to make me go home and practice my rhythms and make sure I'm prepared for our next lesson.
I know that's right.
I must say, only because you brought it up in your effusive description, I saw the change in your accent, by the way.
Oh.
You're just seeing only, and I'm bringing it up because you said it, but as you were like even more, fervent, and I'm like, oh, and then you were like, oh, I hear it. It was like,
Yes,
So just letting you know that
true that.
you may have to curb it, but you can't always. It's
I
always
know that's right.
It's who you are. It's your
yes.
It is.
authentic you. You
It
have
is.
for your students to really grasp with the passion that you spoke about and you're delivering. How are you going to remove a part of yourself all the
Well,
time like that?
I would say that it would be misleading to think that that's something that I have to do or do all the time. I would say
Yeah.
this. I'm the head of the fish in a few different ways in my life. There's an avenue with my family where I'm the head of the fish and I have responsibility. I have a very few employees of my company that I'm responsible for making sure that they have food on their table. And then there is one other area, and I think that knowing that I'm responsible for that is important to me, that I'm moving all of those groups along and that we can all grow. And in order to do that, I have to get us into at tables and into rooms and in some places that other people in my groups
Might not.
might not have the energy for, maybe the capacity, maybe they can't lead that part for the team. So that's something I'm going to have to do. And in this way, I can't squander it, and I have to be smart. And so in this way, there is some moments where it is both most lucrative and in doing so provides safety and peace of mind for my family, for me to make sure that this particular deal goes through or that this or that happens. And sometimes I'm dealing with individuals who are the powers that be.
Mm.
And in the privacy of those people's hearts and minds, they're not people I can trust. And so this does help me deal with them a bit better. And in doing so helps me keep my family a little bit safer and my business a little bit more handled. And, so in that way, it feels, necessary at times, but it's not something that I do or have to do all the time.
Yeah, I also don't think you're alone in these efforts.
No.
I see where I have to do that, and I see where other people with different temperaments have to do that just at regular work. They may not change the way they speak, but they definitely have to change the way they act if it's becoming more submissive or not submissive. Or I've had many female friends lately have been told that they're being aggressive at work when all they're doing is speaking normally. And I'm like, what is... They'll tell me the stories and I think they're totally fine. But for these VIPs and VPs and CEOs that are strong to then suddenly feel emasculated because a woman is speaking to them with not any less strength than a man would. It's interesting. We all do that to a degree. I've done the same thing with my job and with like sexuality. And like, for example, I worked for the Catholic Church for a while. It's what I grew up in. And I enjoyed it. I mean, up until this past weekend, I'm playing, but I don't go around expressing, or going around saying who I am. If you ask me, I'm going to tell you. Don't ask me if you don't want to know. But, we all do we do a little bit of shape shifting to some degree to survive. Is what we have to do. So I'm letting you know you are not alone in that, because I can see that in a different way, but I do the same thing for survival as well. So I'm just empathizing and simply, sharing with you.
Sure. Absolutely.
You said a very interesting word, shape shifting, because see, this is the part, again, it comes back to, because we're talking about intersectionality and all of that, but this is the part where I can't shape shift this.
Yeah.
I know that's right.
Yes. And it's funny you say that, because I thought about that earlier. I'm like, I wonder if, Christopher, if your difference between Sharon is because she is so blatantly this gorgeous darkness that you're in, that you could be many things, and that could be confusing to people. So I wonder if that's where you've had maybe, Sharon, your things have been different than his, maybe because you can tell that's a Black woman. She's strong, educated, and you too. You're strong, educated, but you fall in that middle area where you could be many things. I wonder I wonder if that's what people notice. I can only wonder. I don't know.
Mhm.
So sorry to interrupt, Sharon, but I'm like, yes, I was thinking that.
I haven't heard from Wendy in a while, and I know Christopher had something to say. This is so rich.
It's very rich. I catch myself my whole life, even now, changing how I speak, usually to be softer, because a strong woman, in my experience, is not heard. A strong woman is, gosh, I don't even know how to say it. Just, no, you're so strong, I can't hear you. I mean, that's really, so for me to be heard frequently, maybe even usually, I feel like I have to talk a little bit with a drawl, just a little bit, so it's less in your face, and soften my voice just a little bit, and I don't know, and use the word like all the time. I don't know, but I think this is, and I think this, or I feel this. So if you're just direct as a woman, women and men have told me, like, they just shut down. They can't handle it. There's something in our culture. So
Couple that with someone who gets,
yeah,
if you speak out and you speak out with this, all of
exactly.
a sudden now you're an angry Black woman.
Yes. Because I don't have that, like, I only have the woman card. I don't have the skin color card to stress me out. Which leads to this wonderful word, intersectionality.
You've been watching Brown Space with Sharon and Wendy.
It's been so great talking and sharing here today. We look forward to your comments below, or you can email us at brownspace2020@gmail.com.
Remember, you are the light that gives light to the world.